Because it is sometimes so unbelievable the truth escapes becoming known.
If you want to find out how quickly society can turn against one, stand up and tell the truth about just anything that you want to stand up and tell the truth about. It scares the living daylights out of everyone.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
We can only imagine the confusion and concern when the informed elite of the United States government discovered that an alien spacecraft piloted by insect-like beings from a totally incomprehensible culture had crashed in the desert of New Mexico.
I was actually born on Krypton and sent here by my father, Jor-El, to save the planet Earth.
What does this mean? The result was the formation of a secret ruling body which became known as the Bilderberg.
Because it is sometimes so unbelievable, the truth escapes becoming known.
Mutilated humans were being found.
Searching for truth, pulling back the drapes of the sorcerers of today.
The aliens stated that they had been and were then manipulating masses of thiefcraft, magic, the occult, and religion.
Coming to you straight from the land of Oz, this is Radio Freeman.
It started moving into this whole reptilian possession, interdimensional control of what we call the Illuminati families.
The president goes sightseeing. The sight you see is him pointing at the pyramid.
This one's bigger.
Pointing in a mosque where the press had to don those embarrassing booties, a fate the president and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton avoided by going shoeless, as a tour guide demonstrated the acoustics.
My voice carried.
The president's voice carried at Cairo University, where he kept quoting the Quran for his Muslim audience.
The Holy Quran tells us, the Holy Quran teaches that, the Holy Quran tells us, oh mankind.
You are absolutely right that John McCain has not talked about my Muslim faith, and you're absolutely right that that has not come my Christian faith.
President Obama spoke so much about his Muslim experiences that the website Wonket jokingly called this his Ich bin ein Muslim speech. The president even rattled off a few phrases in Arabic.
Shukran, Saka. Assalamu alaikum. E pluribus unum.
Wait a minute, that last one wasn't Arabic, that was Latin. It's what's inscribed on a quarter.
Out of many, one.
Many wanted to be the one to get the best spot at the photo op with Presidents Obama and Mubarak. Of course, the visual highlight was... No, not him. It was the president touring the pyramids, outside and in.
Purification, mummification.
Self-identification.
That looks like me. Look at those ears.
Separated at birth from a hieroglyphic, but the president's guide saw another resemblance.
Mr. President, you look like King Tut.
I've been told.
Yes, it's true.
He should know about King Tut. Dr. Sahi Hawass oversaw scans of Tut's mummy that produced this likeness. Though President Obama tends to skip the eye makeup, the president's trip inspired Egyptians to display decorations calling Obama the new King Tut of the world. But even the new King Tut couldn't budge a pyramid. Still, it's good practice for trying to push peace in the Mideast. Ginny Mo, CNN, New York.
And welcome back to Radio Freeman. Tonight I have a very special guest for you, Lynn Marzulli. He is author of the Nephilim trilogy, Politics, Prophecy, and the Supernatural, and his latest work, Alien Interviews. Or at least I believe that's your latest work, Lynn. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me back. Yeah, it is the latest work, except actually the work that we just finished is called Watchers. UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. It is a 52-minute DVD, which we're selling literally like hotcakes. It's unbelievable. It really deals with what's going on with the UFO phenomena. We focus on two aspects of the phenomena, which is sort of a smoking gun: the cattle mutilations and the alien implants. In other words, so many of the photographs and the videos, there are lights in the sky of anomalous objects, and people look at that and shrug their shoulders and say, But when you see a mutilated cow carcass drained of blood, its udders or sex organs or tongue or eyes cored out with surgical precision, or if you look at a person who claims to have an implant, and then you watch an operation in a surgical theater, basically this thing being removed from this person, and you see that the metal is analyzed and it's got nanotubes, and the makeup of it is meteorite type metal. In other words, metal not found on this planet. It causes a person to sit up, and that's what we really focus on in the Watchers DVD. It's called UFOs Are Real, Burgeoning, Not Going Away. It's the first of what we hope is many programs that we're going to do in the future, but all we're trying to do with this first one is to alert people and just present the evidence that something is going on. Let's just start there. Something is going on. Later on, we're going to talk about who's behind the something, but for the first one, all we want to do is just say, hey, UFOs are real, they're burgeoning, they're not going away.
Yeah, this has been a long run with the aliens and life on planet Earth. I've had many experiences myself, and even in a bona fide abduction, losing 5 hours of time after witnessing a giant rectangle. So I'm not opposed to this idea and getting it out to the public. I'm really glad you're doing that, because it's all the rage right now, right? Everything's going ET. We just had this ET conference with NASA, and their announcement of an arsenic-based life form, or at least a arsenic-friendly life form. And we're seeing the ET agenda coming forward left and right through Hollywood and through Royal Society, the UN, even the Vatican, right?
Well, not only the Vatican, but I watched the Ancient Aliens program again. And this is season 2 on the History Channel, and they probably have 20 hours on the first season and probably never 20 in the second season. I was filmed in both the first and the second. The first season for 3 hours, the second for 2 hours, and I'm sure I'm not going to be included in the second season. I mean, they've got a ball, they're running with it, they know where they want to go, and it's sort of unfortunate because they're not allowing any other alternative explanations. And of course, I'm coming from the standpoint of a Nephilim, fallen angels, Book of Enoch, which are actually very, very ancient texts that talk about this bizarre manifestation of the fallen angels on the planet. And, I downloaded the information to them. Like I said, I was on film for 2 hours, and none of it has reached the audience. Instead, they're just spinning it one way, and that's fine. And they can do that. They
will do that. Hold on to that thought. We'll be right back. You're listening to Radio Freeman. And welcome back. Well, I'm watching what I call the satanification of America here, Lynn. I'm starting to realize that they're conditioning us towards a dark hero status. And when I see things like the death of Superman in the comic books, and he's replaced by a character known as Hellspawn, who goes out and fights rapist pedophiles in the comic book. Or when I see Batman, Bruce Wayne, having his back broken, and he's replaced by a character known as Azrael, and he becomes a vicious, ruthless killer that no one expected of Batman. I see this type of satanification coming into our agenda all over the place in the practice of bringing about the dark heroes. Let's talk some about the Nephilim and how they seem to be at the heart of our civilization by my standards.
There's an ancient prophetic text that says, as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man returns. And what's interesting about that is the person who's saying that existed 2,000 years ago on this planet. And many people know him as Yeshua, okay? And in other words, he's talking about his second coming when he returns. What's interesting, he's pointing back to, he's saying, when I come back again, it'll be like the days of Noah, which immediately begs the question, what differentiates the days of Noah from any other time in human history? And when we go back and we look at ancient biblical texts, including pseudepigraphical texts which are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, specifically the Book of Enoch, we find that something happened there that was literally, in my opinion, unprecedented. And with all due respect to the History Channel, I mean, this is the smoking gun, and these guys refuse. They refuse to get near it. They won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. With a 10-foot pole, they won't get near it. because it blows their theory right out of the water. And they keep wanting to go ancient alien, ancient alien, ancient alien. Well, it's not. It's ancient fallen angel, Nephilim. And what differentiates the days of Noah from any other time in human history is that these fallen angels procreated with the women of Earth, and the hybrid that they created were called the Nephilim. The first incursion, these beings could have been between 25 and 35 feet tall. They were demonically enhanced, so they had superhuman power. And when you plug that into the equation, all of a sudden, ancient megalithic structures like Baalbek, Stonehenge, Gilgal, Raphaim in Israel, and other places, all of a sudden, you don't need anti-gravity machines. What does Occam's razor say? The simplest answer is usually the most, the one that's correct. And if you had 25 to 35-foot giants in the first incursion before the flood, then all of a sudden these stones can be moved by these people or these hybrids. Remember, they're demonically enhanced. They're not human. They're not fallen angel. They're somewhere in the middle. They're a hybrid. And so that's what's so interesting about that prophetic text, as in the days of Noah, so it will be when the Son of Man returns. And what are we seeing now? We're seeing some sort of a breeding program, allegedly from extraterrestrials. But in my opinion, these are fallen angels manifesting again. This again fulfills other ancient prophetic texts, which talks about they will intermingle with the seed of men, but will not cleave to them. And the word cleave there is the same word in the Hebrew that's used way back in Genesis, which means given in marriage. And we see in the Genesis 6 account, and also in the book of Enoch, that there was some sort of a marriage ceremony between the fallen angel and the women of Earth. Not so now. So all that's under the it's gone. It's way gone. And what we see is that these entities come and they take the people, the women, at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, float them through walls and windows. They find themselves in ships, and genetic experimentation. Ovum is taken in the females, sperm is taken in the males. The females often find themselves pregnant during the third or the end of the first trimester. They're re-abducted and the fetuses are taken from them. So, look, I'm not making this stuff up. We have so many reports from people who have gone through this. And, this is, I think we're in that window of time which ancient prophets tell us will happen right before the end. And I think we're rapidly accelerating towards that moment in time.
Well, I would agree, and I start to see satanic symbols all around me. And I listed a few of them in the first hour, but I'd like to throw a couple at you to think about.
Sure.
No, of course, there's the bitten apple on your Macintosh, which is a clear sign of the original sin. We have numerous numbers of 666 showing up in Procter Gamble's logo and Walt Disney's signature, or even at CERN, their corporate logo seeming to be 666 with a hyperdimensional portal. Now, the only word you can create in the English language out of 666 is the word fox, F-O-X, equals 666. The Monster Energy drink has 3 V's on it in the Hebrew language, and the letter V in Hebrew is 6. So now we're looking at 666 on our Monster drink. But the one that really got me was when I got to the corporate logo as I'm deciphering them in Phillips 66. And 66 is the number of the fallen angels in Kabbalistic tradition. And so then I realized that meant VV. And so I had to look at Hitler's Volkswagen logo, and I see VV, 2 V's interlaced, making a third V, which in Hebrew would be 666. But when you have the original VV or W, then you have 66, the Hebraic number for the fallen angels. So as I'm looking around, I see Satan as the creation of corporate America. I see it listed in all of these corporate signs and symbols, or we can get to Barack Obama, meaning lightning from heaven.
Yeah,
and the fact that when you play Yes We Can backwards, it clearly says, thank you, Satan. What do you think about all of that?
Well, I'll tell you, and there's a lot of people who get very, involved in this stuff, and there are certain signs, and the occult and the Luciferians sometimes hide things literally in plain sight, literally, and it's like it's in your face. When we go to the Denver airport and we look at the murals there, what are we looking at? Why is it there? Why is this crazed stallion, of sitting in front of the Denver airport. And what's the point of that? And the Bay of I actually blogged on this, link to it. The corporate officers for Bank of America have a very similar triptych that mimics the Denver airport mural. It's very, very bizarre. Lots of Masonic symbols in it, New Age stuff, end of the world stuff. Just really, really bizarre.
Let's not forget that Muhammad's horse was also named Barack.
Interesting.
Just throw that in there.
It is. I mean, it's just... here's what I believe, okay? And people go, oh, L.A., you're just so into this conspiracy stuff. But here's the deal.
I hear that a lot, too.
Yeah, but here's the deal. We're told in ancient prophetic texts in the Bible, specifically 2 Thessalonians, and never mind. That city, the Thessalonians, is where Paul is writing this letter to the people living in the city. And so I just can't say the words right now for whatever reason. But the bottom line is, Paul talks about the mystery of iniquity, the secret of lawlessness is at work. That's 2,000 years ago. The mystery of iniquity is at work. And what's it at work doing? Setting up this literally Luciferian satanic conspiracy. And the end game is to enslave the human population, 1, 2, to seat Satan or the Antichrist in the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem. That's where it's going. That's the whole purpose of this whole thing. Everything is funneled towards that one event. Everything is funneled towards that one event. So when Satan takes the seat in the reconstructed temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem to be worshipped as God, that's where he's going with all this. That's the mystery of iniquity. Everything moves and everything eventually funnels down into that. And he's a master. I mean, he's called, in the amplified version of that text, he's called an evil genius, and that's exactly what he is. He's not some, Elmer Fudd type guy or Homer Simpson type guy. He's an evil genius, and he's been plotting and planning this for literally millennia. So when we see some of these signs in corporate America and things like you're talking about, they're just symbols. Some may be accidental, although I don't think that any of the ones that you mentioned are, and others are extremely deliberate. They are announcing who it is they serve, and they do it deliberately to say that, we know who Lucifer is, we believe he's the light bearer, we believe he's gotten the bum rap, and we side with him. Right. Look at guys like Aleister Crowley and most of the New Age movement, Blavatsky and Besant and the whole crew. That's what these people believe. Lucius Trust, which used to be called Lucifer Trust. So that's where it's headed, in my opinion.
Well, the Pope Benedict, was the very first pontiff to ever make moves on the Temple Mount and visit there. This was soon after he had met with W on Friday the 13th at St. John's Tower, which is something that had never happened before either. So I believe that is fully in motion. Did you hear about Supreme Lucifer Rockefeller and his move to make to rebuild the third temple?
I have not. Please educate me.
All right, that was a way out there instance, but it was something I was following for a little while.
What year was it in?
Well, it's actually going on now.
Okay.
Supreme David Rockefeller, and this is a guy who claims that he is Iron Man, and that the story of Iron Man's based on him, and that he actually has a power chest. But he's getting press. I mean, this was New York Times, so it wasn't somewhere out there in the middle of nowhere. But I just thought I'd check and see if you'd heard of him. I'll send you the information.
Please send me the information. I'd be really interested in taking a look at that. Absolutely. The plot thickens.
I do have it in the Space War News section on FreemanTV.com under Lucifer to rebuild the Temple Mount. And so you can have a look at it for those people that are looking for it, and I'll get it over to you, Lynn. Okay, well, let's have a little look at how potentially we could end up in this satanic movement. Now, I had brought up Barack Obama and the fact that his name means lightning from heaven. But I'm certain that they're going to instigate World War III because Albert Pike said so. by inciting violence between the Christians and the atheists here in America. Now, when Barack Obama came in for his inauguration, and we're not going to make it, I'll just get this out and then the break will be here. At the inauguration, they were not allowed to use the name Jesus in their opening prayers. And so at the One World Conference, we had the gay Episcopal Bishop, Gene Robinson, announcing that he was invoking the God of many understandings. I thought that a unique choice, being that he was trying to be an openly gay bishop. He is now leaving the ministry. Then following him was Rick Warren. Now, Rick Warren was not allowed to use the name Jesus either, and so he made his prayer an invocation to the Lord of all nations. Now, if I'm thinking correctly, I think it was Satan that offered all the nations to Jesus. So who would this Lord of all nations that Rick Warren would be referring to at the Barack Obama inauguration?
Amazing.
This is the type of scenario that I see coming down the pipe, and I really fear a lot of times of showing people how many times I can show them Satan, because I'm worried that we're going to instigate and incite this very violence that they're talking about to get the Christians and atheists fighting, and to get the Muslim and Zionist fighting seem to be the plan for World War III. What do you think about this?
Well, I think it's sort of a tip, basically the tip of the iceberg. Look, this thing is being manipulated like crazy. 9/11, I've called it a Luciferian conspiracy or a Luciferian dialectic. Dialectic meaning conflict, counter-conflict, synthesis. The conflict is the initial 9/11 attack. I have a real problem with building number 7. I mean, just free fall, free fall, and no plane hit that building. 8 hours later, we decided to pull it. Loose change has the guy saying it right there, the owner of the building. Yeah, we had to pull it, which is a demolition term. Why would he say that? I mean, what are we looking at here? Who are these people? Why does the doggone thing fall at free fall speed in its own footprint in less than 10 seconds, 5 seconds? It's down. I have a real problem with that. So the conflict happens, 9/11. The counter-conflict is Afghanistan, but then what do? We go into flipping Iraq. Why are we there? I mean, Saddam's a bad guy. I get it. Fine. I got it. Right. But, why do we have to go there? What's the point? Why are we there? And this is the scenario I've come up with. The reason why we're in Iraq is because, and again, this is a wild scenario, but it's what I, write about and believe, and it's based on research, okay? And we will see if I'm right, then we will have witnessed what I call a satanic / Luciferian dialectic. Dialectic, again, conflict, counter-conflict, and synthesis. The conflict is 9/11, the counter-conflict is Afghanistan, but then, boom, we're in Iraq. The synthesis could be this, and it's a lot of what-ifs. When the Iraqi people began their government after Saddam was ousted, they got a constitution. They started writing their constitution. And at that particular time, the King of Jordan, King Abdullah II, who's westernized, whose mother was a European, okay, offered to set up a constitutional monarchy. What most people don't understand is the Hashemite king, King Abdullah, is a direct descendant of Muhammad. Hashem is the uncle of Muhammad. So he holds great sway in the Muslim world between Sunni and Shia. They all respect this guy, all right? So he offers this to the Iraqis, and it was carried in news media. It was, if you look for it, if you blink, you missed it. Let's put it that way. And the Iraqis rejected it. Fine, okay. So Abdullah, goes back to Jordan, where he is the king of. But you'll notice that any type of talk in the Middle East, anything that happens, King of Jordan is always there. In fact, I have a picture of him standing. I think it's Putin in the middle, and Obama on one side, and the king on the other side. It's just unbelievable. So the King of Jordan is a main player on the world stage, and yet Jordan there's no oil there, there's no minerals, and yet the king figures highly into the whole deal. We know that the Iraqi government under Maliki is extremely enervated. It's only being propped up by the U.S. If we pulled out of there tomorrow, that nation would absolutely go into chaos. One. Two, the Iranians would attack the eastern flank in a minute. The Kurds would declare independence. I mean, it would be a quagmire. It would be a huge mess. So the fact that, they declare Iraq a success is just a bunch of baloney. There's all these troops sitting there. We've got some of the biggest air bases and military bases in Iraq. We're there to stay. We're there for the long run. But the Maliki government is weakened and enervated. Watch The King of Jordan, and I'll pick that up at the other side of the break.
All right. And realize that the numbers 9/11, according to Aleister Crowley, are the most satanic numbers out there.
Bingo.
And welcome back to Radio Freeman with my guest, L.A. Marzulli. You can find his website at lamarzulli.net. It's also linked up there on freemantv.com. Come on over, join in the chat room, have some fun with us. Well, we were talking about the King of Jordan.
Yeah, and what I find so interesting in this is that if all the things that I'm about to tell you happen, and there's a lot of what ifs here, but then I believe we are looking at a Luciferian dialectic. So we go into Iraq. The King of Jordan offers to set up a constitutional monarchy. He's rejected by the Iraqi government, the Iraqi people. But we look at it now in 2010, and we see that the Middle East is ready to blow. Iraq is tumultuous. I mean, what was it, a month ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago? 9 coordinated attacks all happened within minutes of each other, leaving hundreds of people dead. 150 Christians were held. I think 60 of them were killed. I mean, the violence is just off the charts, sir. I mean, it's, the place is a cauldron. What they need is a strong man. And the strong man is the Hashemite king, the King of Jordan. In other words, he would come in riding on a white horse, literally, and be declared the king of Iraq. And what most people don't understand is that after World War I and the Turks lost because they sided with Germany, the British and the French came in and dismantled what was the Ottoman Empire, which had held the area of the Middle East for over 400 years. The modern countries of Lebanon, Syria, what is now Israel, Jordan, and Iraq were all created after World War I by the British and the French. The Hashemite kings, at one point, ruled in Syria, Jordan, and Iraq. Syria and Iraq, they were deposed in coups, one of them bloody, where the Hashemite king lost his life. That was in Iraq. And the Ba'ath Party took over. We all know what happened with the Ba'ath Party. The Ba'ath Party is still entrenched in Syria, but has been overthrown with the Saddam government in Iraq. So the bottom line is this. The King of Jordan eventually comes in as a strong man. Remember, both Sunni and Shia Muslim look at him with great reverence because he is a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad. He sets up his kingdom not in Baghdad. He rebuilds the ancient city of Babylon. Rebuilds the ancient city of Babylon.
Claiming to be Nebuchadnezzar reincarnated.
Bingo. Which is in Iraq, southern Iraq. And he does it with petrodollars. And as what we saw, what happens in Dubai, in 3 or 4 years, you can raise something out of a desert floor because these guys will work 24/7 with the petrodollars. They'll spend whatever it needs to they have to spend to get this thing done, and they'll do it. And Iraq's got the petrodollars to do it. So he rebuilds his capital and sets this international capital for on the ruins of the ancient city of Babylon. He then solves the 60-year-old conundrum in the Middle East by creating an independent Palestinian state. In other words, he gives Jordan to the Palestinians. Jordan right now is populated by Palestinians upwards of 65%. 65% of the population in Jordan are Palestinians, okay? Right. Then he does the unthinkable. Remember, he's the Hashemite king, and he's the only person on this planet. In Jerusalem, there is the Temple Mount. We know that. The King of Jordan controls what goes on the Temple Mount. He literally controls the holy cities of Mecca, Medina, and Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. Anything that happens on the Temple Mount, the King of Jordan gives the okay, gives the yay or nay to. So he's the only person on this planet that I'm aware of that can say to the Israelis, say to the Jews in Israel, and cut this deal with the Muslim world. and say, we're going to put up a partition between the Dome of the Rock, because, see, the Temple Mount is 40 acres, and about 20 of those acres aren't being used for anything. They're just sitting there. He can construct a wall between the Dome of the Rock. The Jews could rebuild the third temple. If he does all that, then we have literally witnessed a Luciferian dialectic starting back at 9/11 9 years ago. Now, there's a lot of what-ifs, but we have not seen the synthesis yet. And so all that to say this, you're talking about what's going on globally. This Luciferian conspiracy has been going on for thousands of years, and the whole purpose is to set up the Antichrist in the rebuilt temple on the Temple Mount. That's where it's all going. Everything funnels into that. And I think we're getting very close to seeing some things which are unprecedented, as far as I'm concerned, happen on this planet. World War III, total economic collapse. We look at the earthquakes happening on a weekly basis, 6.9, 7.2. Ayahuasca volcano, volcanic activity globally, setting up ash clouds. The Gulf Stream may have been stalled because of the Gulf oil spill. The fires which decimated the wheat crop in Russia, over 600 fires. Floods in Poland, record floods in Pakistan. Wars and rumors of wars. We see the Middle East just bristling with activity. If there's World War III and the Iranians are involved, which of course they will be, the first thing they'll do is close the Straits of Hormuz and the Gates of Tears. The Strait of Hormuz is in the Persian Gulf. The Gate of Tears is in the Red Sea. It's a choke point for about 65% of the world's oil flows through those two choke points. You put up a radiological blockade using a dirty bomb or a nuke or whatever, and those two areas, and that's it. You've strangled, you've choked off the lifeblood of this planet, which is oil. When oil goes to $200 or $300 or $400 a barrel, and gasoline's $20 at the pump, and the trucks stop rolling, you're looking at mass anarchy, the complete collapse of the global economy as we know it. And frankly, folks, we're getting very close. All this is a setup. Every bit of it is a setup for what I believe is the coming great deception. And of course, that is, getting back to the UFO phenomena, that is ET. We talked about it at the top of the hour. It's all we're seeing is ET everywhere. Well, it's for a reason, because they will come as our saviors, literally. That's how they'll come when they finally manifest. And it will be after this cataclysmic event in the Middle East, this great war, nukes going off, complete confusion on the planet. They will come and they will say this. And I'm saying this a priori, well ahead in the event of of these things happening, taking place. They will say, but they created ET, created all life on this planet. ET genetically manipulated early humans. ET started the Earth's civilizations. ET created the world's religions. Now they are back again at this critical juncture to usher humankind into a time of peace, prosperity, and knowledge. They will also come bearing gifts, and that gift will be in the form of a chip. And that chip will allow you to live between 300 and 500 years disease-free. It'll extend your life. It'll also be the mark. It's interesting that the prophetic text, specific in the book of Revelation, talk about a mark, which is on the back of the hand or on the forehead, which you can't buy, sell, or trade without that mark. And people have speculated about that for almost 2,000 years. But now we see that the RFID chip is in everything. Well, in my research with the alien implants, and this is what we show with the Watchers DVD, which we're selling now. This is my latest offering. UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. When I sit down with Dr. Roger Lear at the end, last 20 minutes of that video, we sit down with Dr. Lear and we say, okay, what are we looking at here? What are these implants? They're not tracking devices, folks. They're not tracking devices. He believes, like I do, that they are changing the DNA in a human being. And we see from ancient prophetic texts, specifically in the book of Revelation, it says that men will seek death and not be able to find it. What the heck does that mean? Think about that. Men will seek death but not be able to find it. Is that a metaphor? Is that just, poetic nonsense that some guy who's, writing in a cave 2,000 years ago? Or is he seeing the future with great specificity and clarity and warning of us of a time that's coming that in fact may be here sooner than we think? I believe that these chips that are embedded these implants in people are prototypes of what they will offer us that will sink the DNA. You know, what amazed me, Freeman, is this week there was an article about scientists changing the DNA of mice and stopping them from aging. I mean, that's,
right.
You know, I mean, that's unbelievable. So it's all around us, and this is what they will do. And people will rush to get this chip. They will rush. We know from prophecy that sometimes different prophetic texts are talking about the same event, and we don't get how all those pieces fit until the event happens. Then we look back and go, oh my gosh, look, there were 5 different prophecies spread out over 400 or 500 years talking about this, and here it is. Well, it's the same thing in the book of Revelation that talks about the mark of the beast, buy, sell, or trade, but then later on we say, and these people will not be able to die. Put those two together, and I'm not saying that they do belong together, but this is a scenario, and I believe that they may in fact dovetail together. And then you take that and overlay it to what we know about the abduction phenomenon, the so-called alien implants, and I believe that there's a real strong parallel here, which is, in my opinion, I'm one of the first people that I know that's put that together. I don't know of anybody else in the UFO community. I mean, it's in my new book, Cosmic Chess Match, which will be released in February, but I've been letting that out of the bag. I've been announcing it on different radio shows. I think it's very important that people understand that these implants may in fact be the prototype of the mark of the beast. This may be the real mark of the beast, not Digital Angel. This may be the real deal, and it will extend people's lifespan 300 to 500 years. This is why people will rush to take it without a second thought. Wouldn't you?
I was just saying that in the first hour, actually. Yeah, I would love to live forever and travel the universe.
There you go.
Yeah, but what strings are attached is always the question. Now, strangely enough, I met the Twin Tower architect, Paul Laffoley.
Wow.
And he designs time machines and such, but he was also the Twin Tower architect. He claims that, and he showed me the X-ray, that he has a chip in his head, and that's what's transferring this knowledge to him to design time machines, and all of the strange esoteric stuff that he gets into comes straight from that chip in his head.
Huh. Wow.
You know, it's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Whew.
Well, yeah. And, you know, if we're starting to look at this extraterrestrial force and what's coming, and looking at, say, Nostradamus's predictions for the Antichrist, he had stated that when Mabus dies, the Antichrist will rise. Well, Barack Obama just put Ray Mabus as Secretary of the Navy, which will really be head of the United States Space Force. I don't know if that's coincidence or...
Is it with an N or an M? Is it Neighbors or Mabus?
It was Mabus, Ray Mabus. He was the governor of Mississippi, which is a very unusual place. I've done a whole film on the esoteric architecture of Jackson, Mississippi.
It's everywhere. Go to Nashville, Tennessee. I mean, it's just ridiculous. The Georgia Guidestones, I mean, that's a whole hour show in itself. You know, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah, I've been looking at a lot of things where I see the street layouts like we have of Washington, D.C. with the pentagrams and everything. But now we have Astana in Kazakhstan, which is also an extraterrestrial nation, one that's launching into space. And we have Canberra in Australia, which is also launching into space. And both of these cities have been laid out as an ancient seal of Solomon to bind spirits. Very much like the Bicentennial Mall in Nashville, the exact same layout, actually, for Astana.
Wow.
Do you think that these men that are going into these darkened lodge rooms and performing these rituals are making contact with this type of Nephilim or otherworldly beings through these rituals?
Well, yeah, and not only there, but I had a pastor call me and remained anonymous about 2 or 3 months ago. He's in the Colorado area. I'll just give the state, but I won't tell you where he was. But there was a CE5 conference, and he drove to it. And you know, this is Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. And what it is that people pay about $1,500 to for 2 days. They train and they learn as a group to call down ET. And so they, were kind of nosing around, and they couldn't get in. They had no tickets, and security was everywhere. I mean, you just couldn't get in without the right, ticket and security thing. And so they, towards the end of the first day or whatever, they go up to one of the security guards, and the guy goes, if you give me a 5 spot, and I'll let you come in. And so they, they're going on, no problem. The guy was talking like $500. Well, of course, they don't have the $500. They're not going to pay it. So anyway, they sort of befriend this guy. They're talking to him, and they, what's going on here? Why the security? And he says, well, at the end of the meeting, they take everybody upstairs. Oh, break music.
Oh, it always comes too fast. I'll tell you, there's so many things I'd love to talk with you about. We will have to do this again. We got one more segment coming up, and we'll get deep and dark and light at the end. And welcome back. We are talking with L.A. Marzulli of LAMarzulli.net. And we were just getting into a story of the pastor. Would you please continue?
Thank you. And so the pastor is, talking to the security guards, and the security guard tells them that at the end of the day, they're like indoctrinated into this thing. The group of these people go up into this upper room type deal, and they meditate, and they bring in entities. And he said specifically that the night before, they had 2 manifestations. The first manifestation was sort of an ectoplasmic ball of light, and the second one, a gray, manifested in front of the group. And so what they're doing is they're actually calling down these entities. All that to say this: when you go to East City Ranch with James Gillian, it's as the person that comes in on our DVD watchers, it's a UFO highway. Not only metallic craft that and spheres that light up the sky way up there over the ranch, but there's orbs which come into the field, and people just look at these things. They're unbelievable. And so, and of course, they're engaging in practices which are helping these things to manifest. So, look, all that to say, right before the break, we were talking about, secret societies and bringing in all these different entities. Absolutely, this is what's going on. When we look at Harry Potter films and all the just the blatant occult symbolistic or symbology that we see in, let's say, Lady Gaga videos, the same thing, yes. Ritualistic sex magic. It's being used everywhere. When we add to that the 1 billion abortions done since Roe v. Wade on this planet, which is nothing more than a modern-day Luciferian satanic blood ritual of sacrifice, because that's what it is. You're killing the live child in the mother's womb. How much more satanic do you want to get? I realize a lot of people go, oh, that's, a woman's right to choose. You're clueless. You're clueless. With all due respect, you're clueless. You have no idea what's going on. If that's really the position you take, you don't understand that this is ritualistic murder being carried out. And some of these guys don't know what they're doing. Many of them do know what they're doing. But the bottom line is it's opened up portals. Why do you think blood ritualistic sacrifice was used with the Mayans, or in many of the ancient cultures all throughout the planet? It's used because it opens up satanic portals. That's what it's all about. And that's what these guys do. And that's the world we're living in. I mean, just look around, like you said, and when we first started the show. I mean, this is where we're at. The Luciferian satanic agenda is everywhere. Everywhere. It's all around us.
Yeah, people try to tell me not everything's a conspiracy, and I'm like, no, you're incorrect on that. It really is. Our entire world is manifested.
Yeah, it is. I agree.
Well, so I'd like to go to a little bit of solution think. I have a pastor story. Just recently had the pastor of a church that I visited come to my door and see if I'd come back. And I explained to him that, we're in the middle of the crash in the market. The money, job rate is the worst since 1930s. I mean, they're saying it's comparable to the 30s. And as it stands, I have people falling in my lap, friends of mine that have, lost their jobs. My mother-in-law, who lost her housing, rentals. She was a real estate agent.
Wow.
And so everybody's falling and crashing. And this pastor comes to my door, and my girlfriend asks him, Well, what can you do for us? We have these people stuck in our homes, and they can't get up, they can't get out, they need a place to sleep, they need some food, they need a ride. And he told me, well, all your good works aren't going to help you. You're still going to go to hell. And I'm really amazed and impressed that you would actually bring these people into your home and take care of them. We would never do that. So I'm wondering now, as we start to look to Christian help in this satanic war, whether or not you feel that the churchgoers are going to be the ones to stand up and help us in this situation.
Well, what's really interesting is there are different, how to say this, there are certain parts of Christendom which have a lot of the ducks in line. Others are completely out to lunch, in my humble opinion. And it's hard to find the good from the bad, but it does exist. There's a lot of good stuff that's being done in the churches. But the churches also are steep in their own political agenda, which enervates them, weakens them, which the idea of, we have to get the tithe every week because we've got salaries to pay and buildings to build and this to do and that to do. And so it creates this rat on the wheel going around and around and around and around and around. Other churches which aren't under that financial burden can extend what they should be doing, in my opinion, to the poor and the widows. I mean, that's what we're told to do. The poor and the widows, those who are in need. Benevolence is always a good thing. That's what it's all about, is taking care of the infirm, taking care of the sick, taking care of... I mean, that's what... Look, the whole Red Cross was founded from Christianity. I mean, that's where it came from. It came from that worldview. It came from that mindset. But oftentimes, some of these guys, we got to build a bigger building, and now we need a 10,000 square foot auditorium because we've grown, and a 3,000 square foot auditorium won't hold us anymore. So they build this huge edifice that's used once a week. I mean, it's just bizarre. It has nothing to do with the experience, and it's gotten out of hand, in my opinion. But yet we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater because it's still, in some facets, in some corners, it does a lot of good. There are pastors that really do care and that really do want to see people healed and their lives made better. But again, it depends on where you go and who you're with and the luck of the draw that day.
Well, it seems that a lot of people don't see what we see, and I'm glad you're out there promoting it to the world for them to understand that there's a bigger agenda going on, and that there's more than just this third-dimensional reality we're dealing with, and that we actually are dealing with a supernatural political state. I got lost there. There's, I had a whole list of things for us. I'm sorry, this was my fault. I gave you the wrong date for the show.
Well, I apologize for the mix-up, and really would love to come back and do a longer interview because there's definitely a simpatico between us, and it's like talking with an old friend, so to speak. And it's just really enjoyed the hour, which just flew by. We could do 3 hours with our eyes closed, so I'd love to come back.
Good. We'll be talking more. Well, you can check them out at lamarzulli.net. It's linked up there on freemantv.com, and expect Lynn to be back on this show because I know we have a lot to talk about, and you have been my #1 requested guest, and now I know why. We do seem to be brothers of another mother.
Hey, Freeman, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. Let's book a date soon. Love to come back.
Fantastic. Will do. Thank you all for joining me here. This may be the last show until 2011. Keep checking freemantv.com for more updates and all the archives I've got for you because there's hours and hours of infotainment there for you. We'll see you all